Hey, what is going on YouTube? Aaron here. We are back on the Mac, boys. We've got ourselves a background game going here with some audio. I tried to do this video live and I couldn't really think of the right things to say, but I think I've got everything kind of laid out here. So before everyone starts crying that Aaron's crying about the Des Moines nerf, let me finish the video first. I've got a lot of talking points, but basically the main topic, and as the title describes, Wargaming doesn't know how to nerf, and I'm not sure. Now, they do things to balance their spreadsheet, and that's fine, but I really don't think that developers play their own game besides making sure things are not obviously broken. Now, they have done a decent job of balancing this game overall in terms of the carriers and not having, ships like the Weimar running around constantly. Now, they did have some mistakes, obviously, that tier 2 or 3 destroyer that had, like, the Kleber torps or the Fantas torps or something like that, so that was obviously broken, but I just don't think that they play their game enough to realize that the Des Moines really did not need the nerf. Now, I'm not too upset with the nerf. It's balanced. It's not like a super massive nerf, but they did nerf pretty much every category of... They nerfed the reload, the radar, and both HE and AP shell damage. And while the Des Moines was very strong, the Des Moines now will never face another Tier 7 battleship or Tier 7 ship, period, without somebody failed divisioning. So that was kind of a silent nerf, if you will. Now, obviously, Wargaming does not silent nerf or shadow nerf their ships. I do think they potentially mess up lines of code, as with the turret pen glitch, the shells landing short, and kind of maybe just the shell to armor interaction. There are some times when you'll get a broadside cruiser, and not only in a battleship, we know that those can, like right there, the Mino, 4 overpens. Like, when is the last time I don't know. I don't think I should be overpenning a Mino at medium range, but anyway, we're talking about the nerfs here, and one thing that people kind of forgot is that with this, like we just mentioned, the most recent edition of Tier 8, the Des Moines will now never face a battleship that cannot overmatch its bow. So all the Tier 7 15-inch battleships are not queued into the legendary matchmaking. So that was kind of a nerf that wasn't really announced, but it's still definitely a nerf to the ship, because for those that don't know, the Des Moines has 27mm plating, and we will go over the armor of the Des Moines and the Worcester kind of here at the end. But every Tier 8 battleship can now overmatch pretty much every part of your ship except for the Citadel belt. And the only way you can kind of use that is if you're slightly angled, because if you're over-angled, obviously the battleship's just going to smack it. So the Des Moines was a very situationally dependent ship, and that relied on positioning. And I think a lot of people don't really know how to position themselves. Now, obviously, we're kind of YOLOing in AI here, so don't look for that, and I will be doing a Des Moines or heavy cruiser positioning video. And it kind of goes to that crowd who's like, well, you just need to come out behind the island and fight like a man. Well, no, that's not how you play cruisers for the most part. And some people, slap rudder builds on ships that don't really need rudder modifications, and think that that's a good way to play instead of finding the better positioning. Now, if you're forced to kite or forced to maneuver, yes, that additional rudder or agility will definitely help you. But for most heavy cruisers, or most especially American cruisers and different things like that, positioning is your best friend, as I'm telling the AI to get back here. But anyway, let's get to the meat of the video, and that's Wargaming doesn't know how to nerf. And 3 prime examples I can think of are the Yamato, the Kleber, and now the Des Moines. Now, obviously, we're shooting at another ship that I don't think is released correctly was released correctly in the first place, and that is the Stalingrad. The Stalingrad was released without HE or a Hydro. Now, I don't think it had the Hydro on PC. And when the Stalingrad first came out, big surprise, it overperformed. So they nerfed that ship once again, as they did the Kleber and the Yamato. If you guys are not seeing a trend here, every time a new legendary ship is reversed, with the exception of a few, it gets nerfed. And you want to know the reason why is we only have about 13 or 14 legendary ships right now. So obviously, perfect example of this is when the Alaska came out. It was underperforming. So they buffed it until all of a sudden it's a super ship and it had more ships to fight. So it overperformed, and they nerfed it again. So if they were to release more legendary ships, I don't think they would need to nerf any of them. And the Des Moines is a great example of that. I think the Des Moines is still going to do well, But as soon as a lot more battleships get into the game and matchmaking is filled up with battleships again, it's going to suffer greatly because people know how strong the ship can be. It's going to get targeted. It's going to get overmatched. And that's going to be it as we come in first here. But as we were talking about the Yamato, and people are probably going to be like, well, Aaron is just a cruiser main, as we see the nerf stats here. Aaron is just a Des Moines main, and he no, I don't think the Yamato should have been nerfed either. The Yamato, the only thing the Yamato has is its guns. So if you're a solo Yamato player or battleship player, and a destroyer pops up around you, now, even if you get all guns on target, you're more likely to miss half of your shells at like 5 kilometers. And that's even if you get detected by the destroyer. So the Shimakaze, which has not received a nerf yet, comes up to you with a 4.8 concealment, and you shoot at it, and you get 5 overpins. He's still alive. He's still able to get all of his torpedoes off, at which point you're dead. But here's the armor of the Des Moines. Actually, let me finish up that point about the Yamato. So what I think they should have done with the Yamato is they should have nerfed its reload. The Yamato with like a max reload can have like a 22, 21 second reload. Now you do sacrifice a few things for that, but I think they should not have nerfed the dispersion. The turret traverse, I could agree with a slight nerf to that because its turret traverse was pretty gnarly. But I don't think they should nerf the dispersion. I really, really hate playing battleships with terrible, terrible accuracy. If I shoot 9 shells at like 10 kilometers or less, if I'm not hitting 70 to 80 to at least 50% of them, why play a battleship? I really don't understand the whole concept of RNG. I get it at like 17, 18, 20 kilometers. You know, the Friedrich de Grosse has like 22 kilometers of range for some reason. But why is the RNG of battleships, especially at like point blank range? I don't know if a few people who watched my stream the other night in the Lenin, it was actually a couple weeks ago, I missed 50% of my shells at less than a kilometer away. Wargaming, if you played your own game and you dealt with these frustrating scenarios that we deal with, I guarantee you would fix either RNG or realize that that battleships need that accuracy. Now, pivoting off of that and the topics of destroyers, number one, I don't know why the Shimakaze has not got a nerf yet. Number two, as I go to the stats here, the Shima has what, 25K, do the math here, 25K alpha for each torpedo times 15, that's like 350K alpha damage. Why is that allowed? But moving off of that, they did nerf the Kleber because it had strong torpedoes, but the Kleber has less damage than that. I think they should have nerfed the Kleber torpedo reload as opposed to its range, because now the Kleber is forced to be a gunboat, and now it kind of is a gunboat anyway. It has very strong main battery guns, but for some reason we only get 1 torpedo reload booster. Why is that? Or I'm sorry, main battery reload booster, where PC I think you get like 3. So I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I really just don't think Wargaming knows how to nerf. And it comes from them not playing their own game. Now, I'm sure they play it, like the community managers play it on stream, and I'm sure the community managers play it even more than the developers do. But I just don't think that they're constantly playing the game day in and day out, like a lot of you guys, like me, a lot of other players. I'd be surprised if they had 2,000 or 3,000 games. And half of that comes from testing the ships to make sure that they're not completely broken, and even then a few of those have gotten through. But here's a video, and you guys can see my recommended. But that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys think. Does Wargaming know how to nerf? Did they get these nerfs right? I personally don't think they did. But yeah, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Aaron out. Peace.